Well, welcome to everyone who is here this evening. We want to begin our October 25th of 2023 Oak Grove Community Council General Meeting. And the first thing we would like to do is welcome anyone who is new here this evening. We'll give our presenters an opportunity to introduce themselves when they are presenting, but are there any members of the community who are here for the first time that would like to let us know that? Okay,
I'm Doug Morgan. Good to see everyone. I'm new. This is my first meeting. I'm a resident of Willamette View and vice chair of our resident council.
welcome.
Looking forward to joining.
Yeah, it's very nice to have you with us this evening. So let's have our board members introduce themselves. My name is Valerie Chapman. I'm the chair and I live on Evergreen Street, just a block from the trolley. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Elliott, and I am vice chair, and I live off of Concord Road on Riesling Road.
Jane?
Jane Civiletti, the treasurer, and I live on the corner of Oak Grove Boulevard and Fair Oaks Ave.
And I don't see other board members here tonight. So let's go ahead. People introduce themselves and tell us what neighborhood or street that you live on. Pam?
I'm Pam Moran and I live at Rose Villa.
Cindy?
I'm Cindy Brown. I also live at Rose Villa.
Welcome. Anita?
Anita Blackmar on Fair Oaks Avenue.
Welcome. Linda?
Linda Seals, and I live at the end of Woodland Way, south of Oak Grove Boulevard.
All it says is Kruger, so I don't have a first name for you.
I'm Roy Kruger. I live at Willamette View.
Welcome. Nice to have you here tonight. Dave?
Dave Toback. I live at Rose Villa.
Welcome. Sue? Sue Conahan?
Sue Conahan at Parkview Circle.
Welcome. Brianna? Brianna? Jacob?
Yeah. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jacob Fuller. I'll speak for Brianna too. Brianna O'Laughlin. We both live at Oak Grove and Rupert.
Okay, welcome. Baldwin? Baldwin? Bob?
There we go. I'm Baldwin Vanderbile, and for the last 44 years, I've lived on Neff Road, 3 doors up from Stringfield Park.
Welcome. Bob?
Come on already. Hey, there we go. Having technical difficulties with the iPhone. It's all good. Bob O'Hannon. I live on Southeast Laurie, adjacent to Rose Villa, and I'm the North Clackamas Watersheds Council rep for the Oak Grove Community Council.
Great. Karen, if we get you.
Karen Oberding, and I'm on Mulberry, Southeast Mulberry Drive.
Welcome. Greg?
Greg Winnison. I'm on Oak Grove Boulevard.
Okay.
And I'm having some video problems, but I'll be in there shortly, I hope.
Okay.
Wait, they're up there twice.
Well, we're glad you're here. Brian McKender, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Good evening, Oak Grove community. I'm Brian McKender. I'm the lieutenant on duty at your local fire station.
Will you have a report for us tonight?
Yes, I have a small one.
We'll give you some room. Do you need to go early, or are you sometimes when they come from the fire district, they need to, because they're on duty, do you need to go early? Is that
Preferably, yes.
And Fumi, why don't you introduce yourself because you're also a neighbor?
Yeah, my name is Fumi. I live off the trolley trail and Torbank Road.
Great. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. And okay. I know that Bernadette has been here before as she's a presenter, and Daniel, we're going to let you present. Introduce yourself when you present. Did I miss anyone?
Tom Civiletti.
Oh.
He just showed up.
Okay, Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
Look who else. Guess he doesn't.
Okay, Gwen, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't know, Jane, maybe you and I should introduce those guys.
Oh, they're married to us. You figure out who's who.
Okay, they're here. All right. Let's do officer reports. Jane, would you like to go ahead with a treasurer report?
Yes, I would like to report that as of last meeting, we have reimbursed our board member Mark Elliott for a new sign that he had done to that we could display at different functions, such as the grand opening at the groundbreaking of the library. That sign was $137, so he got reimbursed. And also we have paid a sum of $85.32 to a public storage place on McLaughlin down near the Fred Meyer gas station. We're going to be using that in conjunction with the historic downtown Oak Grove to store things like all of the signage that we use at functions and some of our supplies and materials that everyone's been pretty much keeping in their basements and storage sheds. So we have paid $85.32. Our new total is $1,327.64. Donations can be taken at any time by going to the On Point branch nearest you and telling them our account number, which can be found by contacting me, or maybe Valerie will just put it on our website. I don't know how to deal with that. But thank you to those who have been making donations during our Zoom meetings.
So, Rich is not here, but we did put out draft minutes for last month's meeting, and we sent those out last week with an agenda. Were there any corrections, additions, changes to the minutes? If not, then they will be accepted the way they were written. Okay, thank you. Are there any other officer reports? Okay, with that, Jane, you're muted.
I could put the account number for us at On Point in the chat if anyone would care to note it from there. That could work.
Right, yeah, that would be a good idea.
Okay, just enter that.
Having the account number doesn't let you do anything but deposit money. And if you would like to deposit money, that would be great. So to say it's for the Oak Grove Community Council at On Point. Officer McKendy, we're going to let Bernadette Lee go first and then let you go. She has 2 children that she's watching in the house, and so needed to be on first. So we'll let her go. Bernadette.
I will be fast, I promise. Hi, everyone. My name is Bernadette Lee, and I am from TriMet. I do have a slideshow, so let me just pull that up. Give me 1 second. So I just wanted to provide, can everyone see the PowerPoint? Okay, awesome. So I wanted to provide a short update about the Park Avenue Garage expansion project. This is a project that is looking to add 2 floors onto the current garage. This was work that was deferred, was originally planned for with the Orange Line project and then was deferred, and is now being accomplished. So just to get us all in the same space about where we're talking about, the garage is located at the corner of Park Avenue and McLaughlin, just south of the Mac Station and north of the Elks Lodge. And then also just east of the trolley trail. So last month, or I guess it was in August, it wasn't quite last month, so 2 months ago, I showed this picture of the west facing side of the garage. And just to orient us all about this picture, I will provide a short summary of what we're looking at. So what the designers are kind of the direction that they are going is to have a mix of perforated metal panels that will have a design on them mixed with mesh panels that vines can grow up. And those would be extended all the way to the top 5 floors. So the idea here was to still include vines. We really heard from the community that there was an interest in having greenery on the facade of the building, while also balancing, maintenance challenges for our staff. So this mix provides an opportunity to have the vines all the way to the top while also not expanding the maintenance needs too much, since these metal panels will be lower maintenance. And just in case anyone has a question about the metal panels, they are finished with kind of a rough finish, so they are not reflective or shiny, which was a question that came up at our open house. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that those panels won't be shiny or reflective. So since the last time I was here, the project team has chosen a pattern for those metal panels. The rendering above shows the pattern when looking from the outside to the garage as well on the left, and then on the right is looking at the panel, that design, if you were standing inside the garage and looking out. The design represents the reeds, which was a theme that was established in the original design for the garage. And I do want to note that this rendering is in the design, these mesh panels will actually have vines growing up them, just our rendering doesn't have the vines. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page that on either side of these perforated panels, these mesh panels will have vines growing up them. So this is the design, and I just wanted to share this step. This was kind of an outstanding question last time I was here as to what that design would be. And I just wanted to highlight that that they've selected a reed pattern, which was based on kind of that original design elements from the garage. One other update here is the schedule. I shared this last time. We are still in the planning process. Just this week, we heard from the county that they have accepted our design packet, and that they will be mailing out notice about the design review committee soon. So I haven't seen the notice, so I'm not quite sure the details yet, but it should be in mailboxes soon. So I just wanted to flag that for folks as well. So that is really my super fast update. I'm going to stop sharing. Here is my contact information. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions. That's what I'm here for. And I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Bernadette. Are there any questions for Bernadette while she's here? Linda, your hand is up.
Does the panels replace the pickup stick poles?
No, the poles are currently on the east side of the garage, like along with McLaughlin. I believe that the west side doesn't currently have any embellishments, so this is really adding to the design of that west side. of the
Okay, so
garage.
it's only going to be on that one side. The poles will remain.
The poles will remain, yeah, and
But
those panels are on.
The poles, my understanding was that the poles would eventually have vines also. But that didn't seem, they grew, but they didn't seem controllable or something.
Yeah, TriMet unfortunately had some challenges with we were having safety challenges and just maintenance challenges with those vines. So they were cut down at one point. We are still in conversation on if they will be replaced on the reeds. So that is a detail that's still to be determined.
Thank you, Bernadette.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping us updated on what's going on.
Of course.
So this time we're gonna sneak the fire department report in. I give you Brian a few minutes so that we can hear from him. Bob O'Hannon's hand is up. Did you have a question for Bernadette before she goes, Bob?
Well, I did, but I'm struggling with the phone at the moment, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. Let's see.
We can hear you. I don't know if
Okay.
you.
My question was, she kind of answered it a little bit. I know there was a question with the homeowners on the west side with reflections and stuff like that. What, you have any more information on the east side, the McLaughlin side with the poles? It's kind of a little tacky at the moment. I know the landscapers have been cutting stuff down, and yeah, it's kind of been up in the air, and I just wonder if you had any more real hard evidence or which way you were leaning on going with that.
I don't have any more information about the vines on the poles, but I'm going to write it down and I'll try to get back to this group on that.
Okay, well, appreciate it. It's just kind of a hot topic with a bunch of people, and they were a little unhappy with the way it's been going, and they weren't consulted and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it is what it is. So just checking on further information.
Okay, thank you, Bernadette.
Okay, thank you everyone for making time for me.
And Brian, I don't know your title, so I'm sorry.
No worries, Valerie. Thank you. I'm a lieutenant here at Oak Grove Fire Station this evening. Not my normal assignment, but I'm happy to be with you. So thank you, Oak Grove community, for giving us a chance to speak. Since this is my first time amongst you, I don't know what we normally have presented before, but big thank you for all the support with our levy. We started our first academy to bring up our staffing here in September. So they're currently enrolled in that and will be coming online in January for us. We hope to increase our staffing with that group at stations 1, 8, 14, 15, and 19. So they should be online with us here in January. We also were able to upstaff our medic in Oregon City from 12 hours to 24 hours. And in July of 2004, we will have a 24/7 staffing out in our Clark's fire station region as well. So thank you for that support with the levy, and appreciate that. So significant events in September. We had a Miles fiberglass fire at the warehouse there in Clackamas. And then also you'll remember the one down here on McLaughlin. So, excuse me. Upcoming events, we are in the month of fire prevention, and we have our last open house on October 28th at Station 18 in the afternoon. And then just a reminder that October is Fire Safety Month, and we like to talk with themes. This year's theme is about kitchen cooking safety, and then a reminder for Halloween safety. And then as you clean out gutters for the wet weather ahead, or even put up your Christmas lights, to use caution. So back to the kind of the kitchen part, you know, if you have grease fires, just cover them. Don't try and put water on it. Don't leave your kitchen unattended, kind of things. And then Halloween safety, right? Visibility at night. and then check candy for the kids that you're around. So as far as call volume wise, over the course of the year, we have increased our call volume by 2,000 calls compared to last year. So we are trending very high at this time. And then let's see. Oh, in October, we also, thanks to state funding, we're able to bring an apprenticeship program to Clackamas Fire. 3 local fire departments were awarded money to start an apprenticeship program, like all the other trades that you'll see out there, plumbing, electrician, and stuff. So we have a 2-year grant where we've brought on some apprentices, and they just started on the line to learn about and work through being a firefighter. So, and that program's awarded for a 2-year contract with us. So we will be getting them certifications and bringing them up to firefighter standards, but as an apprenticeship style. So, and then that's pretty much it for October. And then just as a reminder, we go into November and December, we'll have our Operation Santa Claus back for the 49th year and doing some parades locally through the community. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take that for you now. Otherwise, I'll let you get back to your.
Well, and we want to thank you for coming. It's nice to meet you. And just to let our other presenters know that whenever we have someone from the fire department come who's on duty, we let them go so that they can be ready to respond to anything if there's a need in the community. So there's no questions. Thank you. It was great to have you. Bob, your hand is still up. Is that, was there a question or?
Sorry, it's a new one. And so, yeah, it must be the troublemaker of the night. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm really a nice guy, but here we go. So was it Lieutenant? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Question, and it just hit me between the eyes about 2 hours ago. I have a friend who's been very active in the Gladstone area with the Toy and Joy kind of thing, collecting toys, collecting stuff like crazy for about 6 or 7 years. Clackamas County Fire has taken over the Gladstone Fire Department. They were kind of rude to her, and she quit working with them for the program. And has been working with the Gladstone High School with a teacher. The teachers kind of put some limitations on her program a little bit. They want her to collect all of her stuff by like the 2nd or 3rd of December. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense for Toy J. Is there a way that we can hook something up with the Gladstone Fire to do a Toy and Joy sort of? Her one major limitation is she wants her proceeds, her efforts to go to the city of Gladstone. She doesn't care about Clackamas Fire. We're running everything with Gladstone Fire. That's fine. But she wants her efforts to be community organized, not to Jennings Lodge, not to Oak Grove, not to Oregon City. And currently the Toy and Joy / toy program with Clackamas Fire is run through the Sunshine Division in Portland. Unacceptable, sorry.
Yes, that's a good question. Most of our stuff works in proceeds with the county. And I would have to direct you to our local administration to get you a very specific answer in that case. So I can't really speak to that directly.
Okay.
But we do try and keep stuff within the fire district boundaries.
Correct.
At this point, I would be hard pressed to let you know that would stay inside of Gladstone city limits.
You know, and I understand it's kind of blindsided you, hit you upside the head. I apologize. I really am not that guy, but I also didn't know until about 5 p.m. this evening. I've known this lady for a long time. She does really, really, really well for the tiny community of Gladstone. She's well known. And until Clackamas Fire took over for Gladstone Fire, it was all good. It was doing well. They've referred her, and she worked last year with one of the teachers at the high school. But yeah, it's not working out. They want all this stuff done before the 1st of December. That won't work. It's too early, and yeah, it's just not. Is there a way that we can figure out a way to get this nice lady to be able to do her thing? She raises a lot of money for a tiny community. So is there anybody I should talk to? I can refer her to? I'm just trying to help. I don't live in Gladstone. I'm in Oak Grove. I'm next door to Roseville, so it's not my thing. It's just an acquaintance I have, and super cool lady.
Yes, I would give you two contact names. One is Ryan Cordero, and the other one is Chief Doug Whiteley. You can probably just start by calling 503-742-2600 and referencing Operation Santa Claus.
Okay.
And they will get you in the right position to see if we can work out something together.
Okay. Like I say, it's not really in our bucket list, but somebody I've contact with, I've dealt with a lot. She's doing a great thing. Even a tiny little community of Gladstone, she's been raising $4,000 to $8,000 a year for only toys, no clothing, no food, no nothing else. She's busted her ass, so we need to figure it out.
Yes. Well, tell her thank you for her efforts. And yeah, either on the website for Clackamas Fire under Operation Santa Claus, or contact one of those two gentlemen, Ryan Cordero or Chief Doug Whiteley, and they will get you pointed in the right direction to see if we can't help her out.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. Sorry to blindside you. It was not intentional. I had no idea you were coming on tonight. And yeah.
No worries.
Well,
I apologize.
we need to move on. Thank you, Lieutenant, for being here, and thank you, Bob, for the
Valerie.
questions. All right. So Fumi, we'd like to invite you to introduce us to the Dandelion House.
Thanks, Valerie. Again, my name is Fumi. I live in Oak Grove, and Valerie has invited me to share a little bit about the community-based nonprofit called Dandelion House that I operate right here in Oak Grove. So I'm going to try to share my screen here and show you a few slides so you can see what I'm talking about. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see that? Great. So Dandelion House is a small community nonprofit. We've been around a little over a year, and we're based right here in Oak Grove. If you're walking down the trolley trail, you might have seen the flags along the chain link fence. That's our property. That's from the Oak Grove Community Festival, when I asked community members what makes a strong community, and people wrote down their answers, and we've been using them as decoration on our fence ever since. There are 3 of us who live and work there full time. We call ourselves the Catholic Workers. So Dandelion House is part of a national network of small faith-based houses. There's about 200 houses across the country. Our closest neighbor is in Northeast Portland, and then there's several in California. I don't know of one in Washington right now. No, there's one in Tacoma. And so we're part of a loosely affiliated network, and each house does their own thing. And today I thought I'd just take a few minutes and share what it is we do at Dandelion House. So we operate what we call a house of hospitality. That's kind of a baseline of what we do. We offer transitional housing for our neighbors and friends who are housing unstable or living out of their cars or living outside. And so right now we have a couple that you see in the picture, and a young man who goes to New Urban High School. on Oak Grove Boulevard there, staying with us, and they'll stay with us for as long as they need, typically, several months to get more housing stable, and we'll support them through the process. This is a picture taken the other night from our family dinners. We have family dinners together 3 nights a week, and we all contribute to the meal. That's one of the things we do. We also have a hot meal program where we serve about 50 hot meals in Southeast Portland. So we cook it here in Oak Grove. The ladies on the left are some of our volunteers. And we take it under the Morrison Street Bridge in Southeast Portland and serve about 150 hot meals on Fridays. Folks in our neighborhood, including Jane, who's on this call, have dropped by with their excess garden produce on Thursdays, so we can incorporate it into our meals on Fridays. So that's been really wonderful. On Thursdays, we have a solid, actually, from Willamette View, who come and onions and cook for us. Depending on the season, we'll also work on local advocacy around housing policy with some coalition partners. So this is a coalition last year supporting Project Turnkey that ultimately didn't pass in Clackamas County, but that's at the Board of County Commissioners in Oregon City. We're trying to grow our garden. So these are some garden volunteers putting in a couple beds. We actually want to grow a much larger food forest along the trolley trail. And so that's another project. And the hope is to share the food with the community, both through our hot meals, with the unhoused community, and others. Let's see. We also just want to be a community hub for our neighbors. And so these are some of our neighbors at the Labor Day barbecue. Last year at the winter solstice, Gwian, who's on this call, we had him over with the group to do a storytelling evening. We also had a fall equinox gathering and a ritual of letting go. So we put on community gatherings. There's also a newly launched extended hospitality team. So similar to what we do within our house, where we take our empty bedrooms and offer supportive hospitality, housing for folks needing that. We're now partnered with 2 other families who have extra space in their homes. And those 2 families are offering hospitality to Venezuelan refugees right now. And what we're doing at Dandelion House is supporting them by mentoring them on how to welcome people into your own home, and also providing them with some financial assistance for the increased costs of housing others. So if there's anybody here who is interested in something like that, we're happy to talk about how you might use your extra bedroom for 3 months or however long you want to share that space with someone else in need. And then finally, my last invitation is for you to join us at Sunday Soup and Contemplation. We do this every Sunday at 4:30. We have we begin with a poem or some other sort of spiritual input. Last week was a poem by Denise Levertov. The week before was a poem by Mary Oliver. Then we have 20 minutes of meditation, and then a heart sharing around the circle in the group. And then at 5:30, we serve a vegan and gluten-free soup. You're welcome to bring something to contribute, but it's just a way of touching in a meaningful way with the community at the beginning of each week. So we do that again at 4:30. Or if you just want to come for the soup part, you can show up at 5:30. And yeah, you can find us online at dandelinehouse.org. You can email me, Fumi, F-U-M-I, at dandelinehouse.org. And yeah, we've been here a year. We're super excited to be here in Oak Grove and to connect more with our neighbors and members of the community. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Fumi. Are there any questions, Fumi? Well, thank you for sharing tonight. It was very clear what you're doing, and thank you for sharing the slides. I think that was very cool to give people a picture. So welcome to the community. We're glad that you're here. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm at a friend's for dinner, so I'm gonna hop off this call.
Okay. Bob, was your hand up again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's one of those nights. Just a quick question about their funding. How are they receiving funding?
Yeah, our funding comes entirely from individual donors, so we don't receive money from either the government, the county, the church, foundations. It's just individuals who like what we do and support us. So, Bob, I invite you to be our next donor if you're interested. Just go on online.
You never know.
Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Good night, Fumi. All right. And so finally, we have Daniel Niebauer. I hope I'm saying that correctly, from the Clackamas County Disaster Management. Boy, it just seems like we have one disaster after another in the world. I looked at Hurricane Otis and what happened down in California, and I just think, I'm in Mexico, excuse me. Good heavens. Anyway, so thank you for being here and for presenting to us tonight.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'll share a screen here on a presentation on disaster preparedness. And yeah, we certainly have seen an increase in disasters. My name is Daniel Niebauer. I'm the Director of Disaster Management at Clackamas County. And we're responsible for the coordination of response to disasters in the county. And so that's coordinating other county departments, our external partners, and anything like that. So we were obviously very involved with the Camp Creek fire earlier this year, as well as what we're labeling the Audie Road fire. That was the vacant miles fiberglass building there off of Audie Road, plus a whole variety of other things. Anytime there's a red flag or ice storm or even smaller events, we get incorporated in. What I tell people is anytime we are more than one county department is involved or it gets above their capabilities, we get called in and we can help process requests to the state and all things like that. And we are the ones who kind of maintain the emergency operations center for the county. So I have a brief, hopefully a brief presentation on disaster preparedness for you here. I may go over a lot of things that you know or not, and it can be a lot of information. And I like to get back to kind of a Mark Twain quote when we go over this. It seems like a lot if you haven't started down this path of kind of preparedness, but always getting in and breaking down what seemingly is a complex tasks into manageable ones, and then just diving in is the best way to start. And I will say, even if you haven't started doing any bits of preparedness, I guarantee you're more prepared than you think just by what's already in your cupboard and things you've already thought of. So I break down my presentation kind of along 4 steps that FEMA outlines, and the first one is to be aware. Be aware of sources of information and be aware of the hazards in front of you. So in Clackamas County, here's just a list, a small list. I'm sure plenty of you here can identify things that aren't on this list. But here are some of the big ones that we rate in our natural hazard or hazard mitigation plan, really the hazards we see most likely. We've definitely seen the wildfire and the heat wave recently that have popped up, and historically we've seen flooding. Snow and ice storms are still a very close memory from February of 2021. And then we always talk about the big bad, the earthquake, right? It's horrible to say that wildfires have distracted us from the earthquake recently, but that's the case of where it's been. And then as we get into what we label the man-made ones, there's all kinds of industrial acts of terrorism, and even COVID, which I'm not sure is quite man-made, but that's how they list it in there. But so understanding what hazards you do, and so that might be hazards for the county in general, but it also means local hazards for you. What are the things that are local to you if you do live on a stream that may flood or has historically flooded, and that allows you to begin to think a little bit about what kind of preparedness. I live in Canby, so right off a creek, in between the creek and the Malala River, so I'm worried about flooding, but we also have a slight bit of wildfire risk here that I do pay attention to, and I prepare myself and my family for. So it's important to understand what hazards there are, as well as some sources of information. And most importantly, what we like to look at and what I promote all the time as kind of there are many sources of information and getting alerts for when there's a hazard near you. Public alerts is the biggest one. If you have not signed up for public alerts, please go to Clackamas Public Alerts. You can search that on Google. You can go to that website that's there, www.clackamas.us, and public alerts to sign up. This is the quickest and easiest way for me to get you warning about what's going on, because you can put in your address, so I know if there's something near you, I can notify you, and you can choose how you want to be notified. Do you want a text message? Do you want a call from an automated system? Do you want an email to get you that information? That is the one that we use most often, because we know you've told us you want to get notified and how you want to get notified. So that's the best way to do it. Please do that. Now, there are a couple other ways that I can notify people of an incident, but I usually use those in much more of a life safety alert. So the wireless emergency alerts, you probably have gotten them, particularly in the 2020 wildfires, because we alerted just about everybody we could about those. But those are the ones where your phone has that kind of blaring noise. Ambler Alerts is another one that's commonly used for that. I don't control that one, but other folks do and use that to pass out the message. That's not quite as accurate. So for the first one, I can draw a circle on a map, and it will alert everyone who's signed up in that circle very precisely. If I use that wireless emergency alerts one, I put that circle on a map, what we call is oversplashes. My biggest comparison is I did it for a square mile area in Beaver Creek, because fire had let me know there was a gas leak and they wanted to notify people. I alerted people in Wilsonville and in Clark County and Washington. And that's just the way the system works. But again, I'd rather over alert than under alert. So that's how it goes. And the last one is the emergency alert system. And folks are familiar with those in the TV, radio, most often weather alerts. I don't use that one very often, because when I do, unfortunately, I'm very less precise. I have to hit 5 counties all at once for whatever message I put out. So I really don't want to get a lot of people over anxious or evacuating their homes where something happens. Also, we see a significant increase to the amount of people that call 911. As odd as it sounds, I can tell people to evacuate their home because of the danger in the area, and they'll immediately call 911 and ask if it's accurate. And it's not great, because our 911 is often coordinating a response at that point. But so I use that very as few times as possible. But if you haven't signed up for public alerts, please do. If you've signed up for public alerts previously and you've moved or changed phone numbers, please go back in. And if you remember your login, great, change your information. If you don't, just log in again and sign up. We have ways of verifying that information and getting rid of the old information, putting in the new. So please do it. It's a great way to alert. A couple other resources for being aware. Doing a home hazard hunt. Here you can find a few of these on the internet. This one is from FEMA, but it talks about, particularly under an earthquake, what are some risks that you may have that are unsecured, pictures unsecured, bookshelves, heavy appliances, televisions, gas, water. Are you aware of where all those things are? Have you secured those in different ways? There's ways of securing bookshelves and pictures to the wall so they don't fall down on you and things like that. So using a resource like that to go in and identifying some potential risks in your home is a great thing to do. And then being aware of some other things that are in there. So knowing your natural gas. Are you supplied by natural gas or different means? Do you know how to shut those off properly when you do so? How to turn off the water in your home, electricity, how to open your garage door manually if you can, because if you lose electricity and you've got a garage door, you need to access transportation. It's important to be able to do those things. Gas is real important after an earthquake to shut off, so that if there's a gas leak in your home, you can it won't put you at risk. What we do tell folks is call your natural gas provider, most likely Northwest Natural. If you do shut off your gas, it is very important that they come back in to turn it back on, because they will verify that there is no leak in your house. A couple of ones, if you live in a wildfire hazard area, to understand about defensible space. Oregon State Fire Marshal Office has a new website, OregonDefensibleSpace.org, that talks about how to build defensible space around your home. And I will tell you, it is, if realizing Oak Grove may not quite have the wildfire risk that other areas of the county do, but it is really important to do so for a multitude of reasons, because it puts your house at less risk. Also, as the wildland fire teams are out there working on that fire, if they see a home, if they have a choice between two homes, one with defensible space and one without, they will work to save that house with defensible space if they have limited resources over the one with less, because they have a better chance of saving that home. So great resources there in terms of being aware. So next, make a plan, right? Be aware of what your hazards are, be aware of how you're notifying, and then what kind of planning can you do? So begin to think of and chunk out your planning, again, ways to put smaller tasks. You know, under an earthquake situation, what are the things that you're going to do? That's just drop, cover, and hold. So what are you going to do in the first 2 hours? First 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, and 2 weeks to begin to think about how you respond. So your 2 minutes, what are your immediate actions to take safety for yourself? Under 2 hours, how are you assessing your situation and any kind of damage, any kind of further risk that you have? Under 2 days, how are you getting your immediate survivability risks? And then 2 weeks begins building those resources back up to do that. Another a way to begin to get some of this information is public alerts. So if you go to publicalerts.org, that is a regional resource that Clackamas County, along with Multnomah, Washington, Columbia, and Clark County, have come together to build resources that are for us locally, that also link out to other resources from the state and FEMA. But big things about that family plan: where are you going to meet if your home is not a location to go to? Have you planned that out with your family members? How will you communicate? What resources you're going to need, and what are you going to take with you and evacuate? And I'll talk briefly about some of those here in the next steps. Family emergency communications plan, really, really important. I know that I've got a lot of phone numbers memorized. I know that a couple generations below me, if their cell phone runs out of power, they can't dial anybody from any other phone because they simply don't have that information. So do you have other phone numbers in an area that isn't in your phone? An important ones to have is an out-of-state contact. Following an earthquake, all of the local lines are going to get very, very busy very quickly if there are any available. However, being able to reach someone out of state will be more available. So if you have an out-of-state contact with your family, you can tell folks, I'm going to call an aunt, an uncle, another friend or family member 3 states away. Everybody check in there. Also, text messaging is a way to get information between family members. Often a text message will go through when a call won't. Other things to keep in mind: traditional landlines aren't around as much as they used to. If you're lucky enough to have one of the twisted pair or copper wire phones that you do anymore, many have been converted to DSL internet service. But if you do, make sure you have a cordless, non-cordless phone, because that'll work. Have emergency contacts in your phone. Also have them on a piece of paper. Have a battery operated radio. It's another way to communicate when the power is out. And then if you like amateur and ham radio operations, definitely encourage communications there, because that is one of our furthest backups that you can have. Always looking at your insurance is a great idea, and that really gets into kind of the recovery side of the world. What does your policy cover? What are we looking for in kind of retrofitting or relocating, temporary sheltering options, making sure that you're taking pictures of what exists now, and then keeping any receipts is real important for when you have to do those disaster preparedness. And the Oregon State Division of Financial Regulation has some great help with insurance to be able to look and audit your insurance to make sure it's got the coverage that might be appropriate for the hazards you have. Third step of our 4 is build a kit. There's multiple things in here, and so I'll go over them a little quick, but things that are important to have. Of course, first aid kit, super important to have. I encourage multiple ones if you can at home. Go kits for the car and potentially at work. one to take with you, having one at home. If you have the opportunity to learn first aid and CPR, that's a great opportunity. And then there's different applications you get. First aid by American Red Cross, simple, free, and it's good to have some reminders in there. One thing that I'll encourage everyone in their first aid kits to be aware of current prescriptions, not only what the prescription itself is, but the supply, at least a 30-day supply of prescriptions is really important to have, as well as copies of insurance and medical cards for there, because pharmacies are going to run out of medications really quick as they go along. Water, the minimum that it's suggested for a person is 1 gallon per person per day, but that's looked at as a water consumption. It doesn't consider hygiene or cooking. So we also say around 3 gallons per person per day. Larger families can cut that down a bit because they're going to be shared for food and different things, but always wise things to consider. Consider options, whether it's going to be bottled water, water filters, how you do that. I've got a coworker who takes liter soda bottles, cleans them out, fills them with water, and stores them under her furniture. She's discovered that it's a great way not to have the dog chase a tennis ball under the couch at the same time. But at the same time, she also has a little bit of a water supply. It can be purchased water. If you are self-bottling, make sure it's a food grade container that you're going to keep it in long term. Other places that you can find water are your hot water heater. I wouldn't drink it right away. You might want to do some filtration from it, but because there's some sediment in the bottom of your water heater where you can generally do it, but people aren't aware, depending on the size of your water heater, 35, 45, 55 gallons that are available of water there. There's a regional organization, that regionalhto.org has some great sources on where some water supply is needed and where you can source water and the planning that's go along with that. Food, my biggest one for here, people are always worried about what kind of food, should I get special food and the different kits, is if you have the opportunity, just have a really well-stocked pantry. You normally have 2 boxes of pasta, get 3 or 4 more, right? Find shelf-stable things that you go through on a normal basis. One of the reasons I say this is because a lot of those kits out there that have different things on there, they had just these, I just call them bricks. You know, they're about this big and they're a grayish color, and it's great. They're loaded with calories. That is not something, if you eat on a normal basis, that your gastrointestinal tract likes very often. And the last thing you want to do is get sick and have an upset stomach when you're in disaster. So the more that you can have shelf-stable things and just have a little bit more in your pantry, the better that you are going to be doing all along. But there are those options from emergency kits that you can do that. Having vitamins, because some of the shelf-stable stuff have less vitamins in it, are handy. This recommendation is 3,000 calories per adult per day. And I say yes and no to that, right? You are the best aware of how many calories you're eating on a regular basis. So you want to match that plus a little bit more. There's a good chance there's more stress or more activity post-disaster. So just keep that in mind for what you're going to do. And then if you go camping, or people are like, oh, I don't have camping gear and I'm going to cook. Well, if you have a grill in your backyard, if you keep an extra tank of propane, which is what I do at my house, because I know that I can just cook on the grill if I have to for a little while. Might not everything might not work well on the grill, but it is a source of heat and it does work. Any kind of access and functional needs considerations. A lot of things that we're continuing to learn in disaster management. And the MacGyver fire that was a little bit back, we did open a shelter and had people go to that. And we had to really look around. We didn't think of durable medical equipment like wheelchairs. And so one woman had to sit in her car and wait in her car a little bit longer because we didn't have wheelchairs and walkers easily accessible. So making sure you're aware of any kind of extra mobility needs you have there, labeling that equipment so it doesn't get misplaced. Medical devices needing power. Generators is an option. Going to another source, having multiple batteries, going to another location that you can get electricity is important. We found in the 21 winter storms, hospitals get full real quick of folks just needing to plug in an oxygen concentrator or other medical equipment there. So we're working on other sources of doing that. But if you are dependent on electricity, finding supplies, also talking to your power company, because they have different lists of folks where they can work on finding different sources there for that. And letting folks know that you might need additional assistance, whether it's a caregiver that you currently have or whether it's just neighbors, is real important. Youth. So I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old, and I will tell you, I am constantly making sure that I have updated clothing because they grow way too fast, and I don't want a kid wearing 3-year-old clothing that's too old for them that's in there, as well as ways to keep them entertained, because if my kids aren't entertained, everybody in that shelter is going to be miserable. But then looking at different needs that they have as they grow up, talking to schools and contacting schools, what are their plans for emergency sheltering and reunification in particularly, and how they're checking in to make sure that the right parent or right individual is picking up those child. Making sure they have contact information and backpacks and at daycares and things like that, and making sure you have plenty of stuff like that. And, you know, really understanding how anyone really, but children particularly are quieter and don't know how to necessarily cope with fear and sadness. And so how are you touching base and making sure that, you know, kids are aware of kind of what's going on with them. And animals are huge. We're learning that. We've always known that. We're learning more and more for that. But making sure that if you've got a kit for yourself, what kind of kit do you have for your animal? Foods, medications, photos, names. How is that all bundled up in a crate in a spot that's easy to go? And then having a buddy plan with friends and neighbors. If something happens and you're in an earthquake and you can't get home, does someone know that you have pets and can check in with them? Locating animal shelters and dog services. I think Oak Grove has a little bit less on the agricultural side, but a lot around the wildfires. Horses and other livestock is something that we are always working to set up a shelter with, and making sure that folks can know where to take their animals to do that. And so Humane Society for companion animals has some great resources for that. And then the Oregon State Extension Service has some great information on livestock. So particularly in an earthquake, we are not going to have access to our wastewater systems like we typically do. So we here in Oregon, and particularly this region, emergencytoilet.org was an initiative that we took as a 5-county region to look up, taking a lot of information after the New Zealand, the Christchurch earthquake. And it's basic, and we have stickers if anybody wants them. I've got stickers, and I can give you a source of where to get free 5-gallon buckets. You can also pick them up at your local hardware store. But we can get toilet lids and seats, different supplies that do that. And you have a bucket for each. You don't mix the two because once the poo can dry out and be less contaminated, less dangerous. But the pee obviously keeps it hydrated and is bad, and that can also be diluted and sprinkled on the ground, where the poo we want to make sure doesn't get mixed in. So information on that, and that's very important to have, particularly if you don't have. I'm fortunate enough to have my own system that I'm not dependent on, but when you're dependent on a sewer system, it's very important to be able to think of what's going on there. So the last step is getting involved. The biggest one, and we see this continuously in any large scale disaster, know your neighbors. If you look through different neighborhoods that have rebounded faster and done that, it's because there's a community connection in each one of those neighbors. I lived in Northeast Portland for a good little while, and we had 2 block parties a year. And I will tell you, it was phenomenal. We had great connections. We knew who people were. We were lucky enough to have mechanics and folks that were good with tools, and even a doctor and nurse on the block with a couple teachers. So I was always blessed, but it was great. We would have not known that had we had all that. But what are the different ways to do that with your neighbors? What are different ways to connect with them, to get to know? Then create a neighborhood emergency plan. Do you know anybody who's particularly skilled or particularly vulnerable or has a great resource or is a particular hazard in your neighborhood? These are the things that will really help out in being able to do that. So and again, other things to do in volunteers, the Clackamas Amateur Radio Emergency Services Group, we call them the CARES, but it's clackamasareas.org, is an amateur radio group that we use to communicate in a disaster, and they provide a ton of information that's going on there. And then, organize to address community issues. If you're worried about food security, neighborhood garden's a possibility. I've got a coworker who is all about food, not lawns, and just about every inch of a yard that she has grows some kind of plant just about year round. And that's a great way to do that. And then other types of transportation that are in there. If you don't have a national night out, I can help contact you with folks that can help you do that and organize that around there. And so I promise I'm wrapping up real soon here. So some additional resources that are great out there. The Red Cross Prepared Guide that is done by the Red Cross. It's a great way to get generally prepared. Some earthquake information. The state Department of Emergency Management has Living on Shaky Ground, a lot of information there. And then again, I'll promote publicalerts.org. Go to that website. There's information on regional hazards. There's information on how to be prepared. You can also access that alert platform that I mentioned to sign up. So finally, here's my contact information, email, and my cell phone number, as well as with our office phone number. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions, send me information, requests and stuff. We're always good. If you've got something going on, you need different flyers on preparedness and stuff like that, I am happy to get them to you. The more information that I can get out there, I tell people all the time, and you know, it's half jokingly, the more that I can have you prepared, the less work that I have to do in a disaster. And you know, and the serious part of that is that lets me help focus the resources that I have on the folks that need it the most. So I'm happy to help people get more prepared any way I possibly can. So I'm happy to take any questions that folks have.
Thank you very much. If you stop screen sharing,
yes. Thank you.
then we can.
Oh, I got to find how to do that. No. Oh, here we go. Excellent. Okay.
Well, that was a lot of information. Thank you very much. Do people have particular questions?
Well, I would like to know if Greg Winnison would like to give a pitch for our local Oak Grove CERT organization. There he goes.
Yeah, sure. Congratulations, Dan, on dropping the interim from your name.
Thank you.
And and thanks also for Jamie and Erica for doing grant administration and stuff for our local certs here in Clackamas Fire. So you started off saying that I think confirming my understanding is that disaster management is a top-down organization. You coordinate and work with organizations in the county. We're in CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, which I kind of found a little bit disappointed that it was kind of missing from your slide there, because we're very much neighborhood, community, and local, like right here, type of thing. Our sponsor is Clackamas Fire. I can drop an email and talk a little bit if you'd like. So one of the things that's happening is the National Hazards Mitigation Plan for 2024 is, I think almost all of the subgroups have submitted all of their various parts. And I guess I'm questioning, you know, what are you doing currently in disaster management to encourage community resilience? Because things like CERT, feet on the ground, boots on the ground type of things are going to be, and our activities in terms of trying to get people prepared and aware in more detail than what you presented there, which was really good. Thank you. But one of the goals in the National Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan is promote public awareness. How are you going about that? What are your plans for that? Because it's been kind of missing at the county level and at the organization level here. And it may be one of the reasons that in the state audit 5 years ago, Clackamas was listed as some of the least prepared in the state. So my question is, what are you doing to promote resilience at the general population level?
Yeah, so the CERT program, and thanks for calling it the CERT program. Admittedly, I used a more general presentation. I didn't have the time to customize it for Oak Grove, which is one of our communities that does have the Citizen Emergency Response Team, which is very valuable for us, and it is done at the local level. Sometimes it's done at a more county level, but for Clackamas, the county has opted to do it at the smaller level, which I won't mention whether I agree with that or not. I'll just say that's how it's done here. But we're looking to get back. You know, obviously, COVID gave us a little bit of a hiccup, so we're looking back into getting out more often into preparedness fairs, getting folks out into the community more often, to do that direct promotion, things like this presentation. I love doing the ones in person, even more to be able to talk to folks, get information out there. The next step that we're working on is a project that's going to take a little bit longer. We've split up the county into, and actually this was done out of our transportation and development department, into 21 different zones that really look at geographical isolation post-earthquake. And then what we're doing that is right now we're doing a bit of resilience study on that as we have resources and funds to do, and really looking at a whole combination of factors, demographics, economics, community centers, and things like that to really get a good understanding of the level of resilience within each one of those particular regions. And then what we'll be driving that toward is looking at resources that we can put into, and whether they be plans, whether it be equipment or outreach into those kind of 21 zones to increase that resiliency to that area. And we're going to find a lot of common themes across them all, like communications resources or sheltering resources, things like that. But even if there's ways to take community organizations and get them, build them up, because we realize that we're looking mostly at an earthquake type situation, and the more that we can have the community have resources available to them, the more prepared we'll be. And we're also driving a little bit more into having some shelter resources, and we're working our way up to 4 or 5 different shelter trailers that we want to have positioned around the county to get shelters open a little bit more, as well as promoting resilience. Really is more than just us. So promoting that amongst other county departments to see what they can do to strengthen community connections, looking at our social services folks and just others out there that can get more resources into the community to increase that resilience.
So it's
Go ahead, Greg.
so there's a couple of organizations, a community organization active in disaster, and then the VOAD, volunteer organizations active in disaster. That's a state level. There is one for Clackamas County COAD. Are you? It says they meet on the 4th Tuesday. When I was looking at VOAD and COAD, I found that. Are you aware of them? Are they doing anything?
Yeah, so the COAD and what you're finding on the COAD, I don't know the site that you're looking at or where it is. I know there was a COAD that was, so a COAD is as you said, a community organizations active in disasters. I always forget and say against disasters, which I think has the same meaning, but just a little bit different. But it's a combination of different organizations that have different things. And to give the quick background on it for folks is, way back in Hurricane Andrew days or so, there was a lot of groups that were going out helping post-disaster, but we were finding out that a lot of them wanted to be involved in sheltering or cutting down trees, and they would get there and they'd all try to shelter people and no one would be clearing the path. So these organizations come together and say, what is the best way we can organize ourselves and really assign ourselves certain tasks to respond in a disaster? The COAD, from my understanding, wasn't all that active anymore and kind of had petered out a bit. So what happened post the 2020 wildfires is a long-term recovery group came forward. And what that group does is really organize a lot of the resources that are available federally or state and identify gaps in survivors' needs and helps address those.
Mm-hmm.
And so that group did that. And I want to say it was about a month ago, but perhaps a little bit less, they decided to become a VOAD. So the voluntary organizations active in disasters, they opted to call themselves a VOAD for a COAD. Really, they have the same purpose, but to do that, and that group is just starting converting into that and recruiting new organizations. So Jamie Poole is very active and is on the board for that. And so I can get more information from her, but we are looking to reinvigorate the VOAD within the county, because we learned through COVID and through the 2020 wildfires, there are many wonderful organizations out there that have great resources and really want to benefit the community, and we're looking to partner with them as we continue to plan and respond.
I can reach out to Jamie directly. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's about all I have. Thank you very much.
Are there other, thank you, Greg. Are there other questions from people in the community? Okay. Well, I, for one, want to say that was a lot of information. I was actually really grateful that we're recording the meeting so that I can go back and look at some of the slides and some of the information again. If you were going to direct a community group like ours, would you encourage us to connect with CERT or directly with your office, or if there are neighborhoods that are interested in, if you're interested in organizing your neighborhood, is there help with doing that?
Sure. Reach out to us, reach out to CERT. I think those are the two great resources. The state has some resources. I honestly have to look to see. There was something called Know Your Neighborhood or Map Your Neighborhood, which was a great resource. And I'm not sure where that is. And they were going to revise it or not, but basically it's that kind of looking at your neighborhood and understanding your neighbors and what resources and needs they have. Does everybody know where the gas shut off and water shut off? And it's a great way to help getting specific streets and neighborhoods organized. And I can definitely, I can have some of my folks look into finding and getting you information on that. But if you look it up, you'll find that plenty of resources on that. And it sort used to be able to teach that, I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
We do it's a Map Your Neighborhood. We help facilitate that. And I was just talking with Sarah, oh goodness, but about the River Oaks neighborhood. They're in the process of doing something like a Map Your Neighborhood, and we've done Map Your Neighborhood for several neighborhoods, and it's part of our plans, strategic plans for this year and for next year, is to carry that more out into the neighborhood and try to push that on down into the neighborhood for preparation, because your neighbors are going to be the folks that either save you or you save them in a real disaster.
So is there a map of our area? I don't know who would answer this. Like we just took Oak Grove and people were looking for, where do you go if, you know, are there places for shelter? Are there places that people can head to, think about if in some kind of a disaster?
So we work with the Red Cross in establishing those, and the Red Cross has shelters around there. We're slightly hesitant to tell people to go anywhere because of course it always depends on the hazard. And the last thing we want to tell people is here's where you go, and then to find out that that's where the hazard is. And so we try to keep the county website up to date in the midst of an incident with that information. To do that, Clack Fire is not on here, so they may or may not hog me for saying this, but the way that the amateur radio network is set up is generally fire stations can serve as a location for information. Generally, the amateur radio folks know that they can go there and have access there. And then that's where the county would communicate to be able to get information if everything else has gone right. If you don't have, if you can't get internet and cell phone networks are down, obviously those are primary, right? For Audie Road, Camp Creek, and all the most recent incidents, if you go to the county website, there'll be a red banner up at the top that you'll click and it'll take you to a web page with the most recent information. So that's what we'll put out, and public alerts again. Sign up for that because that's how we get a lot of information out, particularly those that are most directly impacted for that. And it sounds like Greg is a great source with CERT, very involved. Oak Grove is one of our more active certs, so it's a great partner to have. But you can always reach out to me, and it sounds like Greg reaches out to our office often enough that ask questions there, and they'll get to us. And I often don't answer the questions directly, but I know other county departments or resources that I can get you answers if there's something that's incident or emergency related.
Okay. Are there other questions? I have another question. I'm full of questions, I guess, tonight. It seems to me that what I hear most about is our preparing for the big earthquake that we expect at some point, perhaps. And yet some of the bigger disasters that really have happened are not an earthquake. So we're not, it feels like maybe we're not as prepared. And I guess today, partly because I have a daughter in Mexico that just lived through one hurricane, and then the other one that came, which was an extraordinary event. And I'm thinking about what happened in Acapulco, and I'm sure people heard about that in the news, but they didn't have any communication. I mean, so these huge climate issues that are going on, any ideas about how we think about something. I mean, it's great to say, go to the website. What if there's no power?
Right.
What if
Sure.
there's no way to do that?
Yeah, and there's definitely it's definitely easy to talk to a situation where there's nothing left. But I'll tell you, I'll agree. There was actually a very in-depth conversation as to whether the region's biggest threat was now wildfire or earthquake, and how you look at that information. And so all of that is applicable information, particularly as around look at grants and plans to help us do that. But on the individual basis, I'd say it doesn't change a whole lot, right? In either case, you personally need to be prepared, and your preparedness elements don't change. Have a safe place to be and to meet folks. That is your house and another location. Have a supply of food at home with water, things like that, because post-earthquake, if you are in a wood frame house, that's going to survive pretty well. If it's a little bit bigger than a house, wood frames do okay. Concrete structure, maybe not so much. So that's one of those, be aware of this structure type that you're in. But have a supply of food and water and obviously clothing like you normally do at home, with other means to cook it, and probably a 72-hour to 2-week bag to be able to grab and take with you that has some of those supplies in there. If you do need to evacuate, you may be out of your home for a while. Those don't change between earthquake or wildfire or even flood. That's your needs, and you need to take that with you. Prescriptions, sorry, big one, prescriptions and insurance. So the other element is communications. And yeah, we can always start knocking down the different types of communications, and we do those types of exercises relatively frequently. And I look at it from up on Highway 26 when we cut off power up there because of a wildfire threat for 4 days. How am I reaching somebody who only really has internet to do that, but power goes out and they don't have it? And so, having multiple methods of communications and backup power, but that can be as easily as a battery cranked radio, right? Having that, I will tell you, I lived in San Diego for a power outage for a little while, and I charged my phone and kept up information because I had a cranked radio. I had a really strong arm by the end of that, thing, because I was just cranking that radio to power my cell phone for a good long while, but it worked. And one of the things that we're looking at doing, and we've talked with ODOT, is I'm sure you're all familiar with driving down the road and you see the flashing lights on a yellow sign that says, if these lights are flashing, turn your radio to 1520 AM, right? We're working on that becoming our backup, because the AM radio permeates very far, very well. Now, it would likely be a more static than dynamic message, but again, it's a way that we're looking at increasing our communications ability. So we look at, our system of sending out alerts through your cell phones, using the internet, using our social media, using traditional media to get that message out. But if it comes down to it, having that crank radio and using that ODOT, which I don't know the channel off the top of my head, but knowing what that AM radio station is, that's a ways that we're looking at for falling back, and realizing you're less wildfire risk than other areas. But the sheriff's office is committed to, if there is an immediate life safety in that area, so for wildfire level 3 evacuation, they are going to send deputies door to door to knock on there. So it's not perfect, but we're using as many methods of communications as we can figure out to get a message across.
Anita, you have your hand up.
Yeah, a few years ago, I interacted with some people at PGE, and I don't have a very accurate memory of all the things they told me, but they have like a department or something for people who want to, where communities can contact them and work with them to set up emergency, like a whole wall of batteries could be set up in Fred Meyer's grocery store or something like that. And I think Milwaukee has taken advantage of this opportunity, but the PGE people said that it has to be community driven. They're not just going to come in and promote this. Are you aware of any of that?
I don't know what they do. Most of my work around with them is around the public safety power shutoffs that we do in the wildfire seasons, and I know they have resources they bring in for that. So if we're shutting off power to a particular area, they have batteries, water, and other things that they bring in for what they call a community resource center. But I don't know of a program that they typically do. I work with them pretty closely. So if it's something you're interested in, I can definitely find the folks that will help navigate to what those are.
Yeah, I think it's something that either CERT, our local CERT, or some of us locals should look into. because they said if you come to them, they will respond, but they won't just come in and set it up. So yeah, I have to find out more about it. I wish I could be more specific.
Any other questions tonight? Daniel, I want to thank you. Oh, Wayne, did you have a question?
I just wanted to know, I know that at Willamette View, we have our own emergency response group, and there's almost 80 people involved with it in various stages. A lot of it's pretty much self-directed, but I'm really pleased that we have a radio ham group that has a rather active electronic system. I'm curious about the connections between some of our emergency response leadership here. We've got security people, we've got radio ham radio people and so on. And I'm not sure to what degree we have connections with the broader community in terms of the emergency. I'm only a little pig in all of that kind of stuff, so I don't know much about it. Do you have any idea? Or
Yeah, so we have had discussions with Zach in the past. So he's an emergency management representation at your facility. And we've talked to him about different communications. I know also that our public health folks are in communications there. And on the amateur radio folks, I would love to describe, they are so far above my head in their technical capabilities, but I know that all the time they are testing their different capabilities and reaching out and connecting to different folks. So I'm sure that they are connected in there. If you do all the time, and I don't know where they all spread out, but they're very active for us, and I am very grateful for all the efforts they put forward to get our communications up and running.
Right. Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much for coming and being with us and sharing all of that information. If we were all in person, we'd give you a round of applause. That's the best we can do.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
All right. Thank you for having me. Bye.
So if people were worried about the agenda, I just want you to know that there is no LUART report tonight. I did speak with Joseph this afternoon, who works with that. There had been no new applications, and there had been no report back about the library issue. So there was, and he had a family issue tonight. So there is no report. So we're sort of on time when we can move to community committee reports. Is there a park report? Either no, not see. Mark, would you?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Valerie. Report
Is
on
there
which?
a park report
Oh,
tonight?
park report. No, there's not much to report. The district advisory committee is not meeting this month. And, there's not much going on with the library this month since it's still in the process of going through the appeal. So nothing to report there.
Okay. Are there other committee reports?
I'll just mention real quickly that some of you are probably aware that the board of directors here for the community council is developing or creating a nonprofit to help fund projects for the community council. It's called the Friends of the Oak Grove Community Council. And we are in the process of submitting paperwork to the Secretary of State at the state of Oregon here this month. And so we hope to have that completed before the end of the month.
Thank you. I thought Rich would be with us tonight. What Rich wanted us to let you know is that the Committee for Community Involvement has 2 openings. So they're looking for 2 people that would like to be part of the Committee for Community Involvement. And I was not prepared to do that because I thought Rich would be here tonight, but we can definitely send the link out to people as a follow-up to this meeting. The CCI does some of the work that stays connected to all of the different CPOs. So that's the best that I can explain it at this point. I did expect to see Rich tonight. Mark, your hand is up. Did you?
Yeah, I had one other announcement. Some of you may frequent the Milwaukee Community Center, and I wanted to let folks know that they're having their annual traditional Thanksgiving dinner. That will be on Sunday, November 19th, and there's 2 seatings for that at 3:30 and 5 p.m. The cost for that is $18 per adult, and it's a pretty well-attended event and a good way to connect with folks in your community.
Is there someone from HDOG tonight that would like to do a plug for, seems like there's some kind of big event this Saturday.
I'm not sure there is, but I'll speak for them that the trunk or treat event is happening here on Oak Grove Boulevard between 4 o'clock and 7 p.m. And that will be there will be about 30 vendors there, or 30 trunk or treaters there that will be passing out candy to local kids. And so last year we had about 1,500 folks that came to that event, and we hope to have even more this year. So if you have kids in your household or know some grandchildren or whatever, please bring them on Saturday, this coming Saturday from 4 to 7 Oak Grove Boulevard.
Are there any community comments? People have issues that they'd like to bring up, ideas that you'd like to have us put on the agenda, or any other comments that you would like to make tonight? I think it started raining and we're all, it's time to curl up someplace. I think that's the season we're moving into right now. I do want to remind people that that the next meeting that we have will be on December, I think it's the 6th. I'm going to check that date because on the agenda, I'm thinking it's wrong. Yes, it is. It's December 6th. So the agenda that went out, well, the board meeting is on the 4th. That's correct. Okay, and then December 6th is our next general meeting. That is the first Wednesday of December. That's our combination for both November and December, so that we don't have meetings where we're juggling Thanksgiving and the winter holidays at the same time. And we will have on the agenda the NCPRD is coming, and they're talking about the trolley trail report. Is that correct, Mark? Yes.
Yes, that's right. The NCPRD put together an assessment of the status of the trolley trail, and we'll have someone from NCPRD that will be speaking to that report and the outcomes and recommendations they're making.
Are there any other comments or additions? Okay, great.
Just a real quick one for Wayne Potter. I've been talking to Donna Krasnow about taking some CERT classes, and some of the folks on your local response team at Willamette View have already taken CERT classes and are CERT trained. I sit on the Rose Villa, their Ready Force planning team, and I'd like to go ahead and establish same kind of relationship with you folks at Willamette View, if it could. So I'll work with Don on that. Don is their lead, I think, for their local reaction force. One of the things that I had surgery in August, and when I came out of surgery, I was 95 years old and debilitated, and it gave me a little bit different perspective for a lot of our elder community here, because the thoughts that I was having was, if we had the big one right now, I'd be so screwed. And it's something to think about seriously, about ableness and how are we going to take care of us fairly significant communities within our own communities that have staff that are out of the area. So just a little bit of food for thought.
Right.
Valerie?
Yes.
I would
Please
also
do.
like to give another plug for the local Community Emergency Response Team, which is what CERT stands for. We are ready to help any neighborhood with a Map Your Neighborhood program. And by neighborhood, we mean just a very small group of people. We don't mean like the whole street all up and down or anything, but just the people right around your house. If you would get in contact with us, that's, what is it, Oak Lodge CERT?
Info at Oak Lodge CERT.
Info at oaklodgecert.something. We would certainly be willing to come to your neighborhood and help you understand how you can talk to your neighbors and understand who's there, what can they do, how can they help, what do they have, what don't they have, what do they need, and get people all on the same page at a time of calm and reservation rather than when the crap has hit the fan. So reach out to us at any time. We'll come running slowly.
Jane, when you say a small group, what's your number in there?
Well, generally we don't suggest it more than 15 households. I call it screaming distance is my phrase for it. If you go outside and start screaming, those who could hear me are my immediate neighbors. And I have a group right around my house that I've met with twice, and they sort of know who other people are. But I have, friends up the street. They're another neighborhood altogether. It's a different unit. You have to just develop small, cohesive units. And if your unit's functioning, then you can branch out and go and help others in other areas.
So there's two emails. One is info@oaklodgecert.org, and the other one is my email. And Jane might put hers in if she wants to be contacted directly. But it's part of a program that we do and encourage in neighborhoods when we can identify them. Folks who kind of act as a spark plug in their neighborhood who can go ahead and coalesce around them. And as Jane said, sometimes just shouting distance is probably the most practical.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we have come to the end of our time together tonight. Were there other people just waving goodbye at this point? All right. We will see you on December the 6th. That will be our next meeting. Oh, and I wanted to plug in just really quickly say there's only one item on our ballots in our area, but that does not mean it's not important. And I want to encourage people, all of us, whatever your opinions are, to get your ballots in by the 7th of November. All right. Good night.
Good night.